More than 5 million tons of tuna are caught every year, and a huge slice of that ends up in cans on supermarket shelves around the world. The global canned tuna market is so big that it's worth tens of billions of dollars, and demand keeps rising as people look for affordable, high-protein foods. But how do factories transform raw tuna from the ocean into hundreds of millions of identical, shelf-ready cans every single year with so much precision? Well, let's uncover all that here at the Process World. Now, before tuna ever touches a factory floor, the real work starts out in the open ocean. And it's way more intense than most people think. Tuna fishing isn't like tossing a line and waiting for a bite. These fish are built like underwater athletes. They move fast, they travel far, and they don't stay in one place for long. That's why commercial tuna fishing turns into a search mission. Crews spend days tracking where tuna are moving because tuna follow ocean currents and hunt smaller fish, squid, and crustaceans as they migrate across the Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans. And when it comes to catching tuna for the canning industry, one method shows up again and again: purse seine nets, especially for skipjack tuna. A purse seine is a massive net dropped into the water to surround an entire school at once. Then the crew tightens a rope at the bottom called the purse line, closing the net like a drawstring and cutting off escape routes underneath. Once the tuna is caught, the countdown starts immediately. The fish has to be handled fast and chilled quickly to protect the meat. This is where the cold chain becomes the real hero of the story. Tuna can spoil if the temperature slips. It's transported using refrigerated systems all the way to the processing plant. When it arrives, it often goes straight into cold storage. In large facilities, tuna can be stored in warehouses at around -18 to -25 degrees Celsius for a limited period to keep quality high. All right, so the tuna has made it through the ocean, the cold storage, and the long trip to the plant. You'd think the factory just throws it on a conveyor belt and starts slicing. Not even close. But before we get into that, please leave a like and subscribe for more amazing videos like this one. Now moving on, as soon as the tuna arrives, trained workers inspect it for key signs of quality and freshness because the whole production line depends on starting with the right raw material. If a fish doesn't meet the standard, it doesn't move forward. After that, the tuna goes through a thorough washing process to remove sea debris, residue, and anything that shouldn't be there before cutting and cooking begins. In a facility processing huge volumes every day, cleanliness at the start prevents bigger issues down the line. Then the factory grades and sorts the tuna, and this is where the process gets very intentional. Some fish are directed toward clean, uniform chunks for higher-end cans, while others are set aside for flake-style products. This sorting decides how the tuna will be handled once it hits the heavy machinery and cooking systems. And once that sorting decision is made, the factory switches gears fast to the processing part. And well, in tuna factories, processing can go down two very different paths depending on the type of fish and the product being made. On the high-volume side, many plants cut tuna while it's still frozen, sending it straight into industrial machines that can slice huge amounts every hour using ultra-hard blades that keep the meat firm and clean. Staying frozen also supports hygiene, since colder conditions reduce the chance of microbes multiplying during handling. Then there's the slower premium path, where larger tuna like yellowfin and big eye are often cut by skilled workers using specialized knives. This manual work demands real precision because a single wrong cut can damage high-value meat, with the best portions becoming whole fillets and the rest going into chunk or flake products. After the cutting stage, the tuna finally reaches the part where the factory starts to feel unreal. In a large tuna factory, cooking isn't done in small batches. The fish gets loaded into massive steam cookers where controlled heat does the heavy work. This pre-cooking step is one of the biggest turning points in the entire process because it prepares tuna for everything that comes next. First, it's about safety. Cooking helps destroy harmful bacteria and parasites that can be present in raw fish. Since canned tuna is designed to last on shelves for a long time, the factory has to lock in food safety early. Second, it's about control. Once the tuna is steamed, the meat firms up. That makes it easier to handle during trimming and separation without the fish falling apart into a messy pile. Factories also manage time and temperature carefully because overcooking can dry the tuna out and ruin the texture. The goal is simple: safe, firm, and still good enough to taste like something you'd actually want to eat. Once the cooking cycle ends, the tuna moves fast into the next zone. And this is the part that shocks most people. After all the machines and automation, the next stage still runs on human hands and sharp knives. Workers move into filleting and cleaning, carefully separating the meat while removing bones, skin, and any pieces that don't meet the standard. Many use bare hands or thin gloves for precision since they need to feel tiny bones and cleanly pull the meat apart. Hygiene is strict and so is quality control. Once the tuna is finally cleaned down to its best meat, the factory shifts into presentation mode by building the perfect can. For chunk-style tuna, workers often place the pieces by hand, picking chunks that match the right size and shape and arranging them neatly so the can looks clean and uniform when opened. For flaked tuna, many plants still rely on workers to portion it carefully, making sure each can get the right amount while also catching impurities or odd pieces in real time. Some factories even form tuna into uniform blocks first to keep shapes and weights consistent across thousands of cans. Once the tuna is sitting neatly inside the can, the factory still isn't done. Not even close. Because the next step looks simple, and it quietly does a lot of heavy lifting. This is where they add the liquid, usually vegetable oil, brine, or a special sauce depending on the product line and the market the tuna is being made for. And no, this part isn't just about flavor. That liquid helps protect the tuna during storage, and it reduces oxidation, helps the meat hold on to moisture, and supports a longer shelf life. It also affects the final texture because tuna stored in oil tends to feel richer, while brine or water-based versions can taste cleaner and lighter, depending on what people prefer. Factories treat this step like a recipe, not a random pour. The amount of liquid added is carefully controlled so every can stays consistent. Too much liquid changes the weight balance and can mess with how the product looks and feels when it's opened. Too little can make the tuna dry out more easily over time. And this is where canned tuna starts to split into personalities. Some cans are built for simple everyday meals, so the liquid is basic and clean. Other cans are designed to taste stronger, richer, or more seasoned, so they use sauces or flavored oils to stand out. So even though it's one quick step on the production line, the liquid is doing 3 jobs at once: preserving, protecting, and defining the taste. After this, the can is officially loaded and ready for the most critical moment in the entire factory process: sealing it shut. Now, tuna cans aren't closed with anything simple. Factories use a process called seaming, and it's one of the most precise parts of the whole production line. You see, an automated system places the tin lid on top of the can. Then the can slides into a seaming machine that presses the lid and the can body together in a very specific way. The machine folds and crimps the lid's edge tightly around the rim, creating an airtight seal that blocks air bacteria and outside contamination, and the speed is insane. These machines can seal thousands of cans per hour non-stop. The scary part is that speed means nothing without accuracy, so modern lines use sensors to check the seam. If a lid is loose, uneven, or not sealed properly, that can get kicked off the line immediately. One bad seal can ruin the product and create a food safety risk. Once the cans are sealed, the factory moves to the step that makes canned tuna shelf-stable: retort sterilization. The cans are loaded into steel cages and heated under pressure in a sterilization system. Here, the cans reach around 121 degrees Celsius for roughly 60 to 90 minutes. That heat helps eliminate bacteria, mold, and spoilage enzymes that could destroy the tuna over time. After sterilization, the cans are cooled quickly using cold water or air cooling. This prevents overcooking, protects texture and flavor, and keeps the cans strong. Then the cans are grouped into singles, bundles, or multi-packs, often wrapped in a printed carton sleeve that keeps everything tight and shelf-friendly. Then shrink film gets wrapped around the pack to lock it in place, followed by strapping and barcode labeling so inventory systems can track every unit from factory to store. Finally, the packs are stacked onto pallets, wrapped again for protection from dust, moisture, and impacts, and shipped out in massive loads. And just like that, a fast ocean predator becomes a perfectly organized pallet of identical cans, ready to travel across countries and end up in someone's cart like it was always meant to be there. And that's it. Now that you know how much work goes into one can, what do you think is the most fragile part of the whole tuna process that could ruin everything? Comment down below. Let's engage as you leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more amazing videos like this one.